What's up, gamers? We are back with some more modern action. This is our, of course, weekly coverage that we do every Monday and Thursday. And this time around, we've got Jund Sagas versus another hollow one. But this one is a different variation because this one is our mono red hollow one. Almost like a budget list, I say budget because you don't have to rely so much on things like fetch lands and shock lands and, you know, Orcish Bowmasters and things along those lines. It's just sort of set up as we're going to be as focused and efficient as possible on doing the red thing. So, of course, we've got some new additions that make this a little bit easier to just go for the red side, and we'll talk through it as we see some of those cards. But the other side of things is the Jund Saga list, which is basically just Jund. So green, red, black, powerful creatures, disruption, removal, and you also are running Urza Saga and some powerful artifacts that kind of help you out. But a Thoughtseize turn 1, helping us to find some goodies here. So, 2 Goblin Lores, Faithless Looting, a Street Wraith, and a Hollow One. Hollow One is the pick here because, you know, a turn 2 Hollow One is going to be scary. Turn 1 Hollow One's going to be scary. So getting rid of the Hollow One is not what we want to deal with. But so leaving what is left in hand, we know that it's going to be more one-sided, but that also gives us that 100% information and confirmation on what we're fighting against. The Mishra Bauble should always be used before the Thoughtseize if you have both those in your deck. You know, we've played a couple variations of this deck before. We've played like a Death Shadow version that runs both the Baubles and the Thoughtseize. We've played some Jund versions of it. It's, you know, if you're going to be running the Goyf package, running some Baubles in there is nice. So my version of Jund Sagas might be a little different than other people's versions. I wanted a deck that let me use both Tarmogoyf and Nethergoyf. And so I decided to bring out the Jund Sagas. All right. Now, Hollow One player is going for the Faithless Looting, trying to decide what to pitch. One of the Goblin Lores is going here. And it looks like maybe a land. Or is that our second land? We don't want to get rid of that. We need that. Street Wraith. I don't like the idea of discarding Street Wraith, personally. I know we're never going to cast it, but the 2 life there for drawing an extra card is perfectly fine. We're fine with it. Flame Blade, Adept. Oh, wait a minute. We had a Blazing Root Wallow we could have cast there. So we do a little bit of mix up here. Again, we already cast the Faithless Looting this turn, so we already technically tapped it. So can't cast the Flame Blade, but that's okay. But, you know, big reason we're showing this matchup here is so other people that are going, well, I've thought about getting into Modern. What is the way to do it? Really, you can play any deck that you want in Modern. If your goal is just to enjoy the format and play, go to your LGS, get some games in, learn the format, learn a deck, because once you find a deck, get the reps in, play for a couple weeks, you know, practice with it, learn the lines a little bit more so you understand the intricacies of the deck. We see a little bit of a hint of what sort of other fun cards that exist, like the Asmo is one of the ways that this mono red deck can kind of get a little bit more legs. But like we were saying, is the way to think about it is Modern has so much depth to it. You should be looking at a deck that you enjoy. I've got some of my buddies that play mainly Commander that have been thinking about getting into Modern a little bit more. One of them is building Ruby Storm. The other one is looking into building Mill deck. Basically going, you know what? I want to kind of pick a deck that I can just do my thing and just learn the format and just, you know, do a race matchup, essentially, which is a great way to kind of get started of going, I don't have to play a super interactive game. I can just kind of take advantage of the power that my deck is trying to do and just hope for the best. Now, Hollow One kind of does the same sort of thing. It's not as reactionary, especially the mono red version. Like, yes, you get a little bit more reactions to things. You can like flash and Blowmasters and stuff if you're on kind of the Mardu version or the Rakdos version of Hollow One. We've seen a red-green version of the Hollow One pop up. So there's a lot of different ways to go about Hollow One. The Phoenix going to the graveyard is really nice because that can kind of pay off. We already have a Street Wraith in the graveyard, so we just need basically the chance to get a creature out, and we can really start profiting off of that. So playing a Hollow One deck is all about managing your graveyard. Ooh, we lost another Goyf. Another Bauble, and a Lamb. But yeah, managing your graveyard, being aware of whether the Phoenixes are in there or not. That's the other thing. Because it's mono red, we don't get access to Nether Goyfs, which the Rakdos version does. But Blazing Root Wall is there. Sadly, we didn't get to hit that, but that's all right. Jund Sagas is less threats than some other lists. Basically, it's Nether Goyf. It's Tarmogoyf, and it's constructs from Urza Sagas. But some lists are running Bowmasters, some are not. I'm currently not, because I only have one play set for modern decks. I have a couple extra, like in a cube, in commander decks, things like that. But one play set just for modern, and it is currently in my, which list is it in? Dimir Murktide? No. Maybe? Dimir Murktide or my Yawgmoth. I can't remember which one I put it in. Hey, there's the Goyf. Let's get a threat going. So let's count them up. Now, the difference between Tarmogoyf and Nether Goyf is the Tarmogoyf does care about both players' graveyard, where Nether Goyf only cares about your graveyard. So there is that kind of difference there. But we did, get a chance to draft our cube over the weekend. Just celebrated my birthday, so that was very fun. Got a couple of buddies over that I don't normally get to see, and said, hey, let's draft the cube. And I built a 3-color deck, which normally I don't, but I got to draft Pestermite, Splinter Twin, and Nadu in a deck. So I said, well, I mean, if these cards are just showing up, we might as well just put them all in one deck, right? So I'll be posting up some pictures from the draft itself over on Blue Sky and Twitter. If anyone's following us there, you can be able to see some of those posts on there, see some of the deck lists that other people were able to draft up, because it's always fun to be able to do that. And people, what cards are people prioritizing, what decks are they creating, that sort of thing. But Monument of Endurance is a new card that we're seeing that works really well in a self-discard deck, especially a deck that is relying on Goblin Lores, where you're just like, yeah, I'm going to trigger all of these things in return. Or, it's Faithless Looting gives you 2 things, right? Drawing cards, draining your opponent, making treasure, whatever way you want to go about it. It's things can speed up really quickly here. So again, we are allowing the deck to have a little bit of burn potential in a way, by basically just every time we discard, we could lightning bolt somebody, which is really nice with how kind of explosive the deck has the potential to be. I'm trying to keep track of the graveyard. You see there are 5 card types, but you notice the Goyf is sitting at 6/7 because there is the enchantments that exist within the Hollow One player's graveyard there. Let's move for the beats, go to punchies, and there is 6 damage coming across. So we got a threat 14 all between both players, but it is a lot of that lamb go. I'm getting spams on Steam. One of the streamers that we follow that plays HOTS is playing a 5-healer game on HOTS. And so, HOTS is kind of my MOBA of choice. I know a lot of people are in League. It was HOTS and Dota were my 2 that I played. But I don't play much MOBAs that much. You know, playing a lot of Magic, doing a lot of RTS action, which, you know, we'll be doing some more streaming of those kind of stuff come summertime. But bam, here we go. Root Walla, Goblin Lore going to get hit, letting us be able to just kind of do all of the things, drawing all the cards. All right, what do we get? Anything good? Let's see the hits. It says, let's get rid of these. You got to keep this one. Ox. All right, so another reason that we can be able to pay attention to our graveyard. Ox there, but there's the Mako, another new addition to the deck. So yeah, you notice there's a lot of threats that the mono red version does get access to. All right, so we hit all the things. We still have the treasure, and we're going to try to bring the beats. So one of the nice things that, you know, Blazing Root Wall, of course, gives us access to is a little bit more beats. We can give him Fire Breathing, deal damage, but the Jund Saga list is chock full of removal. You know, Lightning Bolts, Fatal Pushes, things like that, that you just kind of can deal with a lot of the low to the ground decks. Against some of the bigger decks, you know, like a Murktide or something like that, it's much harder to deal with. But, you know, at our LGS, having just kind of more removal, the better off you are. There's a lot less like amulet lists and things like that currently running around, so a little bit more flexibility. Also, it's just fun to pivot and switch and change up what decks that we play, because our shop is a nice mix of we've got those, you know, competitive grinders going to the RCs and doing things like that, but also players that are like, I just feel like playing this fun deck. I enjoy this. I brewed up this thing. I'm trying out these, and people like testing and trying to figure out new and fun ways to be able to play decks in Modern. Fear of missing out is scary. Of course, we do have that kind of delirium ability here that you get to take extra combats and do some dumb stuff. I was playing the Vintage Cube because that's back on MTGO, or we are an MTGO content creator. But there was that in addition to having a Mirror Breaker, the enchantment one, the Saga, that you just keep making copies of the Fear of Missing Out and keep going to combat and untap, make a new, you know, keep going. Now you do have to have treasures and things like that to be able to do that. So hopefully your Goblin token has made you enough treasures. Hopefully you have a couple extra mana, but Fatal Push gonna deal with this, so we don't have to worry about any of that Fear of Missing Out shenanigans. Imagine if we tried to hit with the Arena of Glory and gone there and gone for just like a boom, big burst. Not gonna matter though, of course, with the Fatal Push there, but all right, bringing the beats. 6 more damage. Oh, I guess, how much does it cost to bestow? Is it 1 red for the Phoenix? Hold on, Detective's Phoenix. Let's look it up. I can't remember. 1 red, right? Detective Phoenix, bestow 1 red and collect evidence 6. Yeah, so we could have gone for that. I mean, again, it wouldn't have mattered too much other than the Phoenix would have been back, and we could have used that to block the Goyf there. So that collect evidence on top of the Fear of Missing Out, going for combat, you know, immediately, because of course the bestow and Detective Phoenix in general does give haste, so that's really nice. But I like the monuments there, that's cool. And then we see the little bit of the Mako here, so again, just kind of showing that, hey, these cards are awesome new additions from our, you know, Aether Drift gotta go fast set.
which I know a lot of people have. Sets come and go so quickly. Spoiler season is in full swing for Dragons of Tarkir, and that set is looking amazing. I'm really enjoying seeing the spoilers for it. A lot of really cool stuff. I mean, have you guys been paying attention? Other than the Ugin, which has been the talk of the LGS, is like, hey, who's ready for traditional Tron to return? Because that's going to be one of the new new decks, the return of it, because you can just be like, all right, I'm going to just get rid of all the creatures with this and just sit here and cycle through and play this one cost artifact and blow up your board. Ugh. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited for having old school Tron. Actively use the Tron lands. It was such a pillar of Modern for so long that now it's like feels bad that it has disappeared to just the Eldrazi versions, and nobody runs Tron lands anymore. But you know what they say, Tron is bad. All right, game 2. Here's the Marauding Mako. We talked about new additions. It does have the cycling itself, but it does get +1/+1 counters. So the option and the debate is like dropping it on turn 1, hoping your opponent has no answers to it is pretty good. Now, this matchup, it makes it so much harder because Jund Sagas, like we talked about, Fatal Push, Lightning Bolts, it's got so many different ways to answer creatures. And here's a new one that we didn't see in game 1, Unholy Heat. 2 damage to a creature or planeswalker, and going to, of course, if we had Delirium, could deal 6 damage to a creature. But no street race or anything like that to make it a little bit bigger there. So just do a quick cheeky check and make sure, okay, it does get the counters, right? Yes, does get counters on it. So that's the question too. It's like, do you, knowing your opponent has a bunch of removal, do you save it for turn 2, play it, and then do like a Faithless Looting or something and try to just like make it big, or get your Burning Inquiry and just put 3 counters on it right away? I mean, you don't get the burst of damage if you wait. So I think there is that element of like, oh, okay, I want to push for damage, and if this survives a turn, I'm swinging in for 3-4 damage. Exerting. So do we got another Mako? Yes, look at that, Marauding Mako. Still got 1 red left. Burning Inquiry. Faithless Looting. Nope, that'll work. Draw 2, discard 2. Alright, Goblin Lore. Oh, Blazing Root Wall. Alright, easy. Blazing Root Wall, discard. Pay the 0 cost. What else we got? Hollow One. Urza Saga. A mystery card, and Goblin Lore. I like them, whatever the mystery card is. Like, we can try to land a Hollow One next turn with a Goblin Lore. Ooh, we discard the Hollow One here. Interesting. Hollow One is a safer one to keep in hand against black decks, because if Fatal pushes the removal spell that they're trying to use, it's ineffective. They can't do it, right? It's a 5-cost creature, not going to be able to do anything with it. Alright, swinging in. 3 damage. We've got the threats coming. The beats are coming across, making this a little bit tough. This is, again, turn 2. Opponent is fetching and shocking and lowering their life. Marauding Mako, pretty solid choice here. I don't know if it's going to be worth it in a Rakdos build. It's probably fine in a Vengevine list. They're already running like the, I guess you don't get Menace off of it, but like the Flameblade Adepts. But the +1 counters though, permanent, just like make him big, is pretty effective, pretty relevant. Yeah, we did a cheeky check there. You saw the land on top, so that kind of lets us kind of go, okay, coast is clear. I don't have to worry so much about things. Fetch up a swamp. And yeah, you might go, why are you running a black-white fetch land? Because I have 8 modern decks that I'm splitting my fetch lands between. And sometimes decks that don't get to see as much play, get the off lands. All right, Abrupt Decay coming out here. Not, it's instant speed. We could do it on our opponent's turn. Maybe try to get them got with a little bit of extra. Maybe get them to commit a little bit more resources if they expect to be able to get hit or to get some damage in. But you know, the Abrupt Decay are surprisingly decent of, you know, destroying without having to worry about counters and stuff like that. In a world of Psychic Frogs and Pestermites, Abrupt Decay coming back a little bit in my brain of something that I'm happy with. Also, you can destroy any permanent with it. So any sort of enchantments or artifacts people might be building up. And so there's the, of course, Blazing Root Walla blazing his way forward here with some fire. All right, Urza Saga still available next turn. I would have played it this turn, I think, but because if we're not going to do that, use that mountain for anything, I guess that leaves us with the potential. Ooh, Shadow Spear. So yeah, the Urza Saga gets us stuff. Shadow Spear is a surprisingly expensive card. I guess, you know, part of it is you'll see it in certain Urza Saga lists, like some artifact affinity type lists. Blue-white affinity will sometimes run it. Hardened Scales will sometimes run it. Dun Sagas will run it. These, you know, mid-tier decks, but still cool to be able to see. Also, it's really good in Commander. There's the Saga. All right. Underworld Cookbook doesn't really help us here. I like just like doing the Goblin Lore. Again, that's why if we had kept the Hollow One in hand, we hit the Goblin Lore here. I don't think we need to worry so much about the Cookbook. I feel like Goblin Lore gives us a better chance of getting rid of things we don't really care about if we have more stuff in our hand, like the Cookbook there, and whatever the other card that gives us 2 to discard, draw 4, 6 cards total, lose half of them, gives us better odds of keeping the things that might be more relevant and losing some of the stuff. So there's an Asmo, looks like sideboard, and a land. So not the best hits there. Flame Slash, pretty solid. Can kill a creature with it. Sorcery speed though, but 4 damage can be relevant. So we got to see a bit of sideboard cards coming in here. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like, does the Cookbook coming out actually help us? I don't think it does.
No, it's not the hollow one. It was the Asmo.
All right, Asmo gone. Also, that we have that, you know, Faithless Looting in the graveyard from earlier. So like we have options, flashbacky stuff that we could start doing. So again, keeping track of the graveyard, very important for any sort of Hollow One deck. But staring things down, we're looking at the Urza Saga. We see the Shadow Spear. So we're kind of like, okay, the artifact counts are starting to increase on the other side. I don't know how much removal the mono red Hollow One deck is running. Probably lightning bolts and things like that, but it probably didn't bring any, you know, smelt downs or any of these types artifact removal or hate, because they didn't really see any of these Urza Sagas or Shadow Spears in game 1. So like certain hate stuff would be like, oh, I got beat down by a Goyf. I saw some Nether Goyfs. I saw just look like Jund stuff, and we'll just kind of hit it with the lightning bolt, clear threats off the board, and that's going to be a lot of what we're trying to do, and just sort of do the kind of clear the path at this point. I mean, 3 damage isn't that bad, but we don't know how much burst exists. Like, are there bolts on the other side? How many other kind of things should we be scared of? I mean, Arena of Glory definitely adds to the fear, right? An Arena of Glory, having a Detective's Phoenix, like, we could just get hit with some crazy power out of nowhere. So we got to be safe and do what we can. Yes, life is a resource, and taking a 3 hit there isn't that big a deal, but all right, Urza Saga ticked up to 2. Most likely we'll be making a construct here because the rest of our hand is not that great. Right, Asmo. I guess we discard something and then get Asmo out. Oh, the land? No, we just discard the land with Cookbook, play Asmo for 1 mana, and make a construct with the other 2 mana. We go tapped out, still have the artifact in hand. Like, I think we're okay because we don't like playing this here now. The Stone of Erech, I don't know what this is. Lord of the Rings card. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile instead. Pay 2, sack it, exile target player's graveyard, draw a card. Decent card, especially against the Goyves and all that stuff. Works out pretty well, but I think the way that things are set up here, it's like that the line of creating creatures to then next turn play our stone makes the most sense. I guess. Yeah. I think that's. I like that line better. And part of it is, we are identifying these specific lines that we can see from the outside looking in and having almost full information, where being in the moment and playing the game, it's a little bit more difficult. You might miss lines. You're learning new decks. You definitely are going to miss lines. But the goal is to identify these moments where specific lines exist so you can become better at it. So that was one of those, I tapped wrong on my Ursa Saga. I should have made a construct, and then I make my own construct. Now, we are rocking out. Again, we've talked about this on the channel before, is what do you use for tokens? I am maybe misrepresenting the board state by having an elemental here from, anybody guess, what actually creates this elemental? Yeah, who knows? I'm not going to spoil it. I'll tell you that they are 1/0 elementals, though. And they're blue. Oh, I'll say, there's the spoilers. Hold on, don't say it. Don't listen. All right, Urza Saga is going to resolve and allowing us to get a Lava Spur. He says, these are constructs. Yes, we're getting constructs, and we're getting a Lava Spur boot. So we're going to have a big push for damage. So again, that last line of having 2 creatures out, a 3/3 and a 2/2 construct, probably aren't going to be blocking for this, but at least it might set us up for racing a little bit. All right, the boots go on to the new construct, not these blue elementals there.
Yeah, well.
All right, there's the 9 damage coming around. Because, of course, the Lava Spur Boots gives +1, +0, Ward 1, and Haste. Yeah, so tough turn there. All right, so drawing, do we make a construct here?
So what do you do? Like, just throw all the junk cards in the air and pick the ones that landed closest to you, and not so many, and that's my junk deck this week?
Pretty much.
That's what it
I
feels
was like,
like.
I wanted to play regular Goyf and other Goyf in a deck, so I was like, what's the best way to do that? Throw all these random Jund stuff together.
All right, so construct gets made again. If we had a second construct, things would look pretty great because the Ursa Saga is going to pop, and now this one's a 4/4. They would be 5/5s. Well, still 4/4s because the stone would be in our hand. Probably we would have had the asset. Like, I don't know. Lines could have been a little bit different. That's okay. We're here now. We've got a construct. We're facing down Spider-Man memeing the constructs across the board, even if they look different token-wise. We know what they are. I like just using different. I mean, at some point I should actually get construct tokens, especially because I've got hardened scales built again. So now I'm like if people need to borrow it, I'd rather have that instead of them be like, I can't do anything. Or we could, rock out the amazing Infinite tokens. Like if you guys, again, following us on Blue Sky, you saw our post up from the Cube draft where people had to draw their own tokens. And so we got some very fun different ones. Oh, Marauding Mako coming out here. But some fun stuff, like for example, we had some food tokens. Somebody drew a bag of Doritos and made a milkshake for their food tokens. We had some elks, some beasts, some squirrels, some robots. So yeah, very, very, very cool art stuff people were able to do there. But yeah, so setting ourselves up, we now have a food. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, he's a 5/5 because we made a food. So the construct is a 5/5. Swinging in for 2 damage here. I like the pulling the ring off and putting it on the Arena of Glory to kind of represent the Exert. People will represent Exert in different ways. Some will pull it slightly out of the sleeve. Some will just kind of, put the little token underneath of it, some way to indicate it. But equip the Shadow Spear. So there's a 5/5. So yeah, staring down 5/5 versus 2 5/5s.
Please don't do that. Send the team your way. So it's a 5/4. This is a 5/5. This has trample.
All right, so one is a 5/4, one is a 5/5, one has trample and lifelink. The other one has ward 1 and plus and haste. So no matter what happens in this situation, 5 damage is guaranteed going through. Because no matter which one you block, yeah, they're like, hey, here's a construct for you. You want to use this construct? This is no.
Okay, where were we? We got 10 damage coming at you, and you're at 11 right now.
So we got 10 damage moving across. Hollow One player sitting at 11. We're debating about blocking here. Now, the discussion that gets had is based off of the fact that the construct is a 4/4, but it's technically a 5/5. So it says, hey, if you block here, this will try. If you block here, that'll die, but this will live because it's a 5/5 and you're a 4/4. But that's because, oh yeah, the food is an artifact. So it doesn't matter too much other than, I guess, killing the Shadow Spear makes you have to commit extra resources, 2 mana to equip it next turn, but still take 5 damage there. It's got the Shark. We've got a Faithless Looting in the graveyard that we can flash back. We've got an Exerted Arena of Glory, so can't do too much with that. Oh, there we go. Tarfire will kill the Mako. So that's really nice. So that at least kind of helped clear the path. Again, no more blockers in the way. That's the goal. Because that was probably kind of where we were going to go from here, is to just, not attack with the Mako, but just use it as a tapper. Okay, so now that we got the Urza Saga, doesn't really help us here. I guess that's the thing, right? You keep Urza Saga in hand, do the Faithless Looting, try to dig for a threat, something to use to block and maybe absorb a hit, and Tarmogoyf. But we've got our stone out, so we can at least try to weaken it. So because you saw the tribal instant get added in there, we know there's an Urza Saga, so that's already land, instant, tribal, enchantment. There's a Mishra's Bauble that's 5. There's we already got artifact. There's creatures that are in there, that's 6. So 6, 7, but
You have an artifact, a creature, enchantment, a
let's.
do you have a sorcery and an instant?
Oh, we had in the sorcery as well with Thought Seed. So 7, 6, 7, 7, 8. I lost track. All right, so it looks like we're missing instances: artifact, creature, enchantment, land, sorcery. 5. Okay, he's 5/6. So we would have been a 6/7.
Put this boots onto my.
Now he's a 6/6.
Did you let that actually do anything? Yeah.
It's not 2 power; it's a 3 power.
He was gonna
Again, the dice, like the constructs, are throwing people for loops tonight.
very much. I would like to move to combat.
Yeah, well, now we're done. We're done, I think. We're done.
And there's the damage, swinging it across there to clean things up. Yeah, tough. A big part of it is like the amount of removal of the Jund list. Like sometimes you'll run into that where it's like, yep, my deck just gets hosed by this specific strategy, and that's where sideboards come in, where you can go, well, base your sideboard off what you're going to be seeing more often than not. Whether you're playing online, you're going to see more of the specific meta decks. If you're playing in an LGS, adjust your board based on your LGS, not just going with the stock list that you saw online. It goes, oh, you need to run these cards. If you're not seeing a bunch of artifacts at your LGS, you don't need as much artifact hate. So, I think it's worth it maybe to have at least guaranteed 1 in your board, but, adjust accordingly. Don't run like 3 pieces or 4 pieces because nobody runs it at your shop. All right, we get to see a bit of the list laid out there, which is always great to see there. But that is going to do it for this episode. I hope everybody enjoyed seeing a little bit of the fun little mid-tier stuff. Again, there's going to be a ban list coming up for Modern. We've got lots of other games coming up, some Hardened Scales, some Affinity, some Yawgmoth, some Twin, all kinds of good stuff. But that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks so much for tuning and watching, everybody, and I'll see you all next game.